I don't know. I don't understand.
I'll do that.
This particular part is my dream project. I will do it before I retire.
So we just have another episode we have to record. When you're done with that, we're going to ask you, how did you do it? Both money and time, I guess.
Money and time, and it has a payoff of very short time. Still, we haven't done it.
Push the amazing button for you. Do you think that then the politicians give money to the wrong causes in that sense because of this? Or what?
That's what I say.
Like 20...
That's what I say. But why
Can
not? Well, yeah.
Or will you?
This may not be so sexy to talk about, but
it's okay.
It's
so
one for you as well.
Oh,
what an amazing discussion we've had, I think.
I agree.
Much more qualified than they were in the beginning.
I'm going to challenge this because... Hi and welcome back to The Switch, not another podcast. A production done together with DNB and Baseload Capital. My name is Kristina Hagström and I'm the host of this show, but also a naive optimist with rebellic streak that will guide you, entertain you, educate you together with my absolutely amazing team behind the scenes. Emil, Jacob. Today we have a very exciting guest to give you. But before that, I would like to remind you to subscribe to the podcast, share it to someone who also would like it, and also comment in the social media flow so that we can get your thoughts in on this show. Without further ado, it's now time to introduce today's guest.
He is the co-founder and the managing director of Cleantech Scandinavia. For the last 15 years, Cleantech Scandinavia has been running an international network for investors and startups in the field of Nordic and Baltic Cleantech. They have been providing their members with investment opportunities and business intelligence on the Nordic market. They also have been hosting the competition Nordic Cleantech Open. Every year they identify the 25 most innovative cleantech startups. On the question what our guest has done for the planet this week, he said that he's thinking about putting up solar panels and he's been riding the bus a lot. Our guest today is really a superstar in cleantech. So let's give a warm Switch welcome to Magnus Agerström.
Welcome, Magnus, to the Switch studio.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, especially when I know that you have some big announcements coming up soon enough.
Absolutely. Many actually, in fact. But
actually 25.
Yeah, 25, yes.
Tell me about them.
Yeah, so we have been running a startup competition in the cleantech field for 11 years, and it's time again to disclose the Nordic top 25 cleantech companies.
So by the time that the people who are watching and listening to this, when the episode is out,
it's going to be out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The list is going to be out, so you can
Absolutely.
search it up on
NordicCleantechOpen.com and CleantechScandinavia.com.
Yeah. I guess that there are many companies, many cleantech companies out there that are pretty nervous right now.
I think so. I mean, it's amazing. We see some 300 new innovations every year in Nordic, and these days in Baltics as well. And we get about 140 to apply. And then we have a jury of like 60 international investors that are reviewing these cases to grade them on certain criteria. And this is the result of that. So the top 25 is what we disclose in the first instance. Then there's continuation. We will select the top 10, and then we will have a finals, and we will select the winners in the end.
And what happens to the winners in the end?
Most commonly they get investments. There's no prize or anything like that. So it's more of the recognition, you know, when you have so many investors looking at them and says that this is interesting for us. So it's they are more likely than others to get investments in a year or so.
So actually a very big opportunity.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You are the one who started this initiative. Can you tell us more why you started this initiative?
We were very early to begin with, so Cleantech was not as common as it is today. So the reason I guess is that we felt the need to explain what types of innovations we are talking about. Normal question is, what is Cleantech? The best way to explain it is by showing examples of this, is because it's a wide range.
Okay.
Cleantech is a wide range, so it's good to show off. So put the spotlight on new Cleantech companies was the first.
And why would you like to do that? Why do you think it's important to do that?
Yeah, our limited world is about get the investors in to invest in these companies. So that's why we exist to begin with, to put these innovations in front of investors so that the investments are growing constantly.
Okay.
So that's our main thing.
Yeah.
But then of course there's the big market and the information about everything else that happens in the ecosystem. But investments is we want that to grow so that these companies can grow.
I have two questions. Soon I'm going to ask you, like, what's your vision with this initiative? But first, for the audience now, what is actually Cleantech? A word that everybody uses, but when you ask someone, no one actually knows what it is. Can you explain in an easy way, what is Cleantech?
I usually say that Cleantech is when you have an innovation that is designed to either improve efficiency in resource use or limit impact or reduce or take away negative impact on the ecosystems. So and it doesn't even have to be the whole purpose of a solution, and very normally it is not. I mean, there's multiple reasons for innovating, of course, but so it needs to be one of the key issues, key features of an innovation.
Can you give us an example of a known Cleantech company?
I would say that today one of the companies that is everywhere is Elon Road. They do electric roads as a complement to fast charging, which if you look in the future when everyone is going to have electric cars, it's going to be some limitations when it comes to the charging. Instead, you can charge while driving. How about that?
I would love that. Again, I'm going back to to make sure that everybody understands. Tesla, is that Cleantech company?
Yes, I would say so, because that's one of the we'll come back to that probably, because that's one of the main developments in this area, that we have the electrification of vehicles and other things.
What about Northvolt?
Yes, for sure, absolutely.
Schneider Electric?
Yeah, in a way, but it is, and there's corporates that are having big percentages of their business in Cleantech. Alfa Laval is another company. We don't specifically follow that so much as we follow the startup community.
Okay, cool. But if we look at the startup community and you're actually picking out these top 25 from the 140 list, what are the criteria you're looking for? Like, this is a Cleantech company because they are 1, 2, 3. What would you say?
Yeah, the criteria is, I mean, when the investors are looking at this, the environmental aspects is but one of the criteria they are looking for. They are also looking at things like the team, the market potential, and the uniqueness of the innovation, etc. So they have a multiple criteria that they look at when they grade them. So it's one of them. Cool. So it's not a list of the innovation with the most impact. That's not what it is, but the ones with the most potential, I would say.
Okay, good. So again, many people out there sitting on their...
Yes, I think so, and it's amazing. One thing I can say about it is that it's like Sweden is as always, most companies from Sweden in the 140, but Norway is coming. And that is a new thing for us. We see that in investment. We see it in the number of innovations that comes in as well. So that's exciting.
Let's continue with this Cleantech track. How can Cleantech actually make a difference in the quality of our future? What would you say?
Well, first of all, I mean, it is the environment and the survival of the planet. That's a pretty good start, I think. And also our health. I mean, if we look at if we can implement these solutions, we will have improved health as a result of it. So those two things is the main thing. But then there's a general efficiency thing with this. Most clean technologies also comes with doing things more efficiently. And that's what we've said in industry for many years, but now it's being accelerated with Cleantech. So, simple example, if we, for example, say that we are going to drive around with a truck and pick up trash from waste bins, you probably don't need to go to all of them every time. You can have something that directs you to only go to the ones that needs being picked up by using intelligence, and then you do it smarter.
Good example.
Yeah, it saves fuel, and you save time as well. So it's always that.
You've been in the business for 15 years. What are the main changes you've seen in Cleantech these years?
If we look at the investments to begin with, it started, in 2007, and when we started, it was heavy investments in hardware companies and so on. As it turned out, in too early stages. So it was very much a pilot the first 3 years, I think. Many lost money also. And then there was the financial crisis, and then it has been picking up again. And now it's simply going through the roof. Last year we had 6.4 billion euros invested in
6.4 billion
euros invested in Nordic and Baltic Cleantech. And
only in Nordic and Baltic?
In Nordic and Baltic, yes.
Do you have numbers for the world?
Not in my head, but it is. We are doing good.
Okay.
In that way.
Cool.
So in terms of investment, it's been that, and there we've seen, of course, in content, we had a phase where it was mainly apps and stuff, and that now I think we are back to some real innovations, research-based innovations in storage, for example, and other areas. So it's a positive development in that way as well.
What would you consider are the main challenges then?
The main challenges, one is the scale up, obviously. It's all around. We see companies that they are the rock stars of this earth. They are profiled as this is, but when you look at it, it's from low levels, And in order to scale this up so that the whole world can benefit from an innovation, we are not really there yet. We are not really there yet, and then there are several things that could be done to improve that situation. But that is.
Can you tell us more about that? What needs to be done?
Yeah, I think that there is a need for support in that stage as well. If we come to that, we see a lot of money, a lot of efforts going into research. If we now look at Sweden or in the Nordics, and also in the initial stages, a lot of support, which is also why we have companies that are like 15 years old that are starting to sell now in Sweden, which is good. It's good that we have that sustainability in our innovation system. But the problem is that once they start to grow, there is no not a good support system, I think. We see the government, they're doing things here and things there, but it's not the collective effort of growing our great innovations to a global market. That can be a lot better. I normally don't criticize the public side too much, but in this case, I think they can do a whole lot better. And also for the individual entrepreneurs to be a bit more brave. It's easy to stay in Sweden. It's a comfortable place to be. But if you want to be a star in the future, you need to understand that the big markets are maybe not here. Maybe you need to early on be out in the world.
I guess that there are many companies out there looking at their product and they're like, this is the next solution. How would you define that it is actually the next thing? How would you know if you should like really go at it?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. That's actually what the investors are supposed to be good at. I'm not sure I'm the right person to say that, to be honest. They are a lot better. That's also something that could be mentioned as something that is that has changed over the years, and that is that the investors themselves are much more qualified than they were in the beginning.
I'm going to challenge this because are the investors actually educated enough to be able to look at a company and say, this is the next thing? Because there is a lack of education with what needs to be done to make the switch, what is actually missing and how these pieces fit together.
Yeah. Well, I stand with what I said. I think a bulk of the investors today are very thorough. They go through thousands of innovations every year, and many of them do it in a proper way, and they are learning. So some of them knows a whole lot more than I do, to be honest. So
okay,
I know,
you can push that one too if you want to.
This
for me.
one,
yeah.
You think it's okay?
If you want to bullshit me, it's okay.
No. No, it's fine. No, I don't portray myself as standing on the investor side. It's just a thing that I've seen over the years.
But you do believe that actually they are catching up. They do have education enough. They know what to look for.
It's better. It's better. That's what I'm saying. It's better than in the beginning it was, and it still is. It's very much,
Yeah.
And as investors, which is in every area, they are following the herd, which is pretty much everywhere in investment. So it's no difference with Cleantech.
What's your vision for the future now? What do you want to do with what you already have?
Well, there are some more challenges that we want to take on. We'll continue with the innovations, but one thing is that we notice it when we work with, for example, with cities today. Cities, they've taken a role of becoming climate neutral by 2030 or 2040 or something. Yeah. And they are pretty active in becoming that. And what you see is that the innovation that is required to do that requires something else as well, and that's infrastructure. This may not be so sexy to talk about, but
it's okay.
It means that our infrastructure system is not ready for the innovations that are coming. Take again the electric roads. Have that in mind. It's bigger shifts that is needed in the structural system in a society to be able to use all these sensor technologies and so on and so forth. And so far, the investors that are operating in that area are not so. They have not discovered the world of Cleantech yet to a great extent. So we talk about infrastructure investors, we talk about pension funds, we talk about banks because this needs a considerable amount of money. The kind of money that you would think that the city would have or the government would have, but they don't. They don't invest enough in that. So we need capital flowing from private sources into that infrastructure as well.
I read this article a couple of weeks ago about these charging stations, and if we would implement all that's needed, we would have to make big changes in the city.
Absolutely.
Is that what you're talking about?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah?
Pretty much, yes. It's not. It's one thing when you have an innovation in the beginning, you can test it. It's possible. But if you take that to the end where you do it everywhere, then it's going to be something completely different, and it's going to require something completely different. So what I'm trying to do is to get these types of investors in to see this opportunity and move in to do public-private partnerships of different kinds to support that development as well.
What are the uncomfortable conversations that need to be had to make the changes we need to do the switch?
Well, I think it lies in this scaling up thing, but nowadays. Because we do have some great innovations out there. But I think that we are not doing what we can to implement them. And that is a little bit more complex than to invent the...
What do you mean who is not doing what we need?
All right, let me take another example with LED light. It's my favorite example because it's so simple in a way, because we have developed LED lighting for street lights. Street lights consume a whole lot of energy. So if you can replace that with LED lighting and also make them intelligent, you can save a whole lot of
both money and time, I guess.
Money and time, and it has a payoff of very short time. Still, we haven't done it. So we do pilot projects.
But we've had LED lamps for what?
That's what I say.
Like 20...
That's what I say. But why
Can
don't? Well, yeah.
Or will you?
What's that? It's
bullshit button.
Is it bullshit about what? I don't know. I don't understand.
I'll do that.
We've had them, but we don't have them, you see.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We don't have LED streetlights to more than, I don't have the number, but I guess it's 10% or a few percentages only. The rest is the old ones. And this is something that can be improved, that should be done. And this is an easy one. Think of all the difficult ones. How on earth are we going to get there?
Well, that is really an uncomfortable conversation to be had, because
yes, I think so.
Who is responsible then to have this discussion?
I think that politicians is important in this. I understand their problem with it becomes too technical and stuff because it.
But LED lamps is not that technical.
No, but you don't hear them talk about that in debates in TV, right, on TV.
No, but the interesting thing would be to have a discussion then about energy efficiency. And Sweden, what can be done in energy efficiency in Sweden?
Well, we don't even talk about that, I think. Instead, we give money to the ones that are suffering from not having energy efficient solutions implemented. So that is, it's an uncomfortable conversation to have because it's short term and it's long term, obviously. But we could have implemented a lot of energy efficient solutions in homes, for example, so that we wouldn't have suffered as much on high energy prices as we are now. It could have been done. It's not. It was there. The innovations were there, but apparently the incentives were not enough. So this is uncomfortable to talk about because it's
I have a question regarding we had a guest on this podcast who talked about the public needs to feel the pain of high energy prices or feel that the gasoline is too expensive to run our car to make the change before it even happens. One thing with homes with energy efficiency, at least in Sweden, is windows, and we have these energy efficient windows for a long time.
Yes.
Do you agree that, let's say, the energy prices go up, so the public needs to do something about saving energy, and that's why we can switch?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we need to go to those lengths. I think every time, I think we as humans could be a bit more intelligent than that. But it's apparent that when we are faced with a situation like this, we will change our behavior for sure. So it's a driving force. So, I agree.
So going back to that, what we can say here and what we can summarize, it's really that me as a person, I can actually put pressure on, and if I would start asking questions to the right people, then maybe these kind of changes like the LED could happen. I mean, it's the same.
Absolutely.
In your home, in your work, do we have this? Do we have this?
I actually did it with a city person at an event not long ago. She was on with me that we need to stop traveling, she said, and she sort of talked about we as individuals, we need to stay at home. We should work it from home. We should not and so on. And then I said, yes, it's a considerable amount of emissions that comes from mobility and from so on. But I think if you put that demand on people, why don't you just look at what you can do in your professional life? Look at, for example, the LED lights and do that, So I want to change the discussion a little bit from putting all the the blame, so to speak, on the individual and the consumer. But when we have solutions that we could easily implement by just being a little bit better. Not that I'm saying that it doesn't come down to consumption anyway, because it does, but it's sort of a gradual shift that you need to work with other tools, I guess. So
I know that this is actually a subject that you're bullish about, but what is, I mean, to all the people that are sitting there with power, what is actually enough impact?
Yeah, well, this is a major topic in our world at the moment. Because if you imagine an investor sitting there with going through 1,000 innovations every year and say that they are an impact investor, which many of them do these days, they obviously make their valuation as they normally do, and then they want to look at, all right, what kind of impact could this innovation have? So this might be a little bit on the technical side, but what we need to do is to have these decision makers actually account for what avoided emissions an innovation could have in the longer run.
Can you give an example of that?
What you need to do is that you need to look at each and every innovation and see what kind of impact they can have, considering the growth path they are considering. So and this needs to be done pretty much in a harmonized way, so that we know so that it doesn't become a greenwashing thing. We see today entrepreneurs coming in and they say that we will avoid emissions of this size, and if it's true or not, no one knows, because we don't know where that comes from. So that needs to be improved, and luckily there's a big process going on to improve this. We are involved in some of it. So,
but I mean, yeah, I know that you're involved with some of it, but I also know that there are so many frameworks out there.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to know which one to look to and also to understand.
Yeah.
And I know that you and I discussed also that many of them are actually without guidance.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. We have studied this and saw that out of 15 or so global frameworks on how to assess impact on CO2 impact specifically, they only account for the parts that should be in an analysis, but not how. So things like how many years should we look at, what type of boundaries should we use, how do we assess the baseline where we are now. If we want to know how something will be affected, we need to know where we are now, right? We need to agree how we do that. So there's a lot of, in the end we came to the conclusion that it depends on the consultant or whoever that makes the assessment, and then we are basically nowhere. So this is something that we need to work on, and we are involved in some projects where investors luckily have come together to figure this out. It's complex because we talk about the future. I mean, it's complex enough to make a CO2 report that reflects on what has been done and so on. But to look at for the future, then there's more moving parts, so to speak, and look at, we talk about enabling effects. Some innovations has sort of one, if you just look at the innovation in itself, you see one part of the avoided emissions, but if you see how it is being used in the second effect, you see even more. So sensors, for example, if you use it properly, you will have more effects. And also on the other way around, you have some solutions where you come to the conclusion that they have a great impact, but when you look at it more closely, there are some rebound effects that makes it, well, maybe not. So.
And I guess that this is something that we need to learn again with new technology, clean tech, and new solutions. There are so many new ecosystems to take in consideration.
Yeah.
Is that a problem or an opportunity?
Well, if we come to some conclusion, this is a great opportunity, because I mean, before we do that, we don't have a clue what we talk about anyway. So why do it? You know, that's my assessment. And I don't think that things like the taxonomy and things like that is enough, because that's basically just a categorization, right? Where you decide that this is areas that are sort of clean tech or has impact. But what you would miss is things that could be completely disruptive, that is not in any of these categories. So I think you need to stay with actually analyze each and every innovation on its own right. That's what I think. But I know that there's others that thinks differently. Maybe we can have a debate.
What do you want to see done?
Yeah, I want to have a generally accepted principle in this area that is supported with organizations and people that are generally respected. It cannot be a consultant that sort of tries to push their own agendas, or it cannot be the government that tries to push their agendas. It needs to be something that, like the economic accountancy system that we are all following without questioning, something like that.
I'm going to push the awesome button for that one. I agree that we need strict and collaborative measures and guidelines.
Yes, this goes all the way through the area of impact, etc. We see it it's important for cities as well. You know, they are going to become climate neutral. They need to make up investment plans for how to become climate neutral. Wouldn't it be good if they also looked at different options to do that, and made assessment of which one, what type of innovations, etc., that would reach that target, at what cost, so that you can make some comparisons. That happens very rarely today in cities. Very rarely. It's more whatever comes down.
And do you think that then the politicians give money to the wrong causes in that sense because of this, or is that?
I don't think they're too detailed in that way, but of course, money that is sort of being distributed by, for example, Energy Agency or Vinnova and things like that would of course benefit from being a little bit more concerned about and I know there's internal discussions about these things and how to do that. And of course it would be good to make a better assessment on this aspect as well.
I know that you and your team are working really hard in order to continue to pave the path. And to make it easy for not only clean tech companies. That's what I learned from today, summarizing that you see that there are more collaborations needed to be done and more education to be done. What are your, if I would say like summarizing words, what would you like to say as this is what I wish and hope for, not only for your own company, but also for Scandinavia and for maybe the global world? What would you say?
There would be a need for clearer economic incentives or economic tools to steer the economic system in the direction that we want. We are doing it. I mean, there's taxes, there's all kinds of things that sort of is trying to do that. But I think, and I understand why they can't be too bold, because that would shut down an industry perhaps if we do it too casually. I mean, we need to be thorough with these things, but I think we should work to encourage better economic incentives for the whole sector to turn in the way that we want. So that is the main thing. Take a thing like the GDP measure, for example, which is the crown jewel of measuring economic development. It's what we use, right? It's what we have, and that doesn't take any account on impact to a good extent. Why not start there and try to change that? Awesome. Yeah. Instead, they try to make sort of happiness indexes and so on, and it's good that they do, but it won't sink in. You know, so I think it's better to change what we have.
Because people are already using it. So using the measurements that we already have, that they're used to. What kind of implementation could be done in it?
Well, it's like some have tried over the years is to open the books and see what's in these whole GDP measures and look at ways to possibly if I put it like this, put some minuses in that on things that we don't want in society that is negative for the society. As it is today, the costs for negative things is a positive thing in the GDP, and that's, I mean, then we cannot use that tool for this. But it's a technical thing to go through it. It would need a coalition of some sort and strong people doing it.
Maybe you're one of the strong people that will.
This particular part is my dream project. I will do it before I retire.
So we just have another episode we have to record. When you're done with that, we're going to ask you, how did you do it? And until then, we are definitely going to push the amazing button for you. We're also going to make sure to push and pave the way for you as well.
Yeah,
so
and one for you as well. Oh, what an amazing discussion we had, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
My sunshine goes to you. You're sending it right back. But I know you also, I want to give you a chance to lift up another perspective, an initiative or a person. Who would you like to give sunshine to out there that is doing actually a good job?
Sunshine.
Yes, I would like to give the sunshine to all those people that are actually taking steps to become sustainable in their living, who puts solar panels on their roofs, that switches to an electric car, that starts to eat more vegetarian food, that takes the bus or train if it's more convenient than to take the car. Those people are really the heroes of this change.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. If you would summarize today's discussion, what would you say?
Well, I think that we've been working with this with Cleantech for 15, 16 years now, and people I come across always say that this must be this now is the time, basically they say. But I would say that now is the time. The past 15, 16 years has looked like it was the time, but now is the time, I think. And all the stars are standing right. There's capital, there's innovation, there's awareness, there is basically everything. Now we need a little bit of courage, I think.
I hope that this show gave you courage. It certainly gave me courage, and it also gave me hope. Thank you, Magnus, for giving this to me and to our audience, and good luck. We will follow and we will vote for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.